everyone, it's Danny. Welcome back to another project for the Coco Vanilla Studio design team. Today I'm going to be creating a layout inspired by the February monthly mood board challenge. It is up on the blog today. So I was definitely inspired by the image of the sunset or sunrise over the ocean. I loved the different layers of color, and I was also inspired by the image of the Eiffel Tower with all the cherry blossoms around it. I just had this image in my head of all those cherry blossoms falling out of the trees and showering their petals all over the place. So the photo I have here is a picture of jacaranda trees. It was just at sunset. I was at a park with my family and I just had this beautiful image of the pink sunset behind the purple jacarandas. And I will admit I have tweaked the photo slightly in Photoshop just to make the colors really stand out. I don't think the camera ever quite captures exactly how beautiful that sort of thing is to the human eye, especially when you're using like a phone camera. So I am going to use the inspiration of the ocean, and I'm kind of going to create some of those layers of color. So what I'm doing is just laying a base layer down of that darker blue spot. And then I've torn this mixed media paper and I'm mostly centered around the lighter blue for that. Then I'm going to come in with this a bit of a darker pink, and I'm definitely trying to keep that pink theme going because the mood board theme is life in pink. So I'm just tearing all the edges. I'm tearing them so you can see that white core of the paper, but I don't want too much of that white to show through. So like here, as I tore it, it tore a big strip of white. So I'm just tearing off all the excess white paper there. I just want the edge to be visible. So there we go. I've just made them nice and irregular, so I don't want them all to look the same. I want it to be nice and textured and kind of look like, I don't want it to look like waves because we were nowhere near the ocean, but I just want that same kind of pattern. I'm really enjoying that. So I'm just going through with my fingers and curling up all the edges. And here I'm going to tear off some more of that extra white that I had left on. And I'm just doing this to create that nice sort of curled up effect right at the edge there. So I'm just going through and rolling all those edges up. Really simple to do. And yeah, you don't need any special skills for this. And I really like the effect it creates, an extra layer of dimension and 3D. So you can see there the shadow that it casts. I really like that. So I've just sped this one up a little bit more so you don't have to sit through all of this. But just doing exactly the same thing with this. And then I'm going to just go through and layer them up. Now, it doesn't matter too much that they're not perfectly straight because those edges aren't straight, and those are going to be the ones that you see. But this top one, I did have a little trouble getting it on straight. It can kind of, with all those uneven edges, it can kind of fool you to thinking that it's straight when maybe it isn't. So I did go through off camera with my ruler and just make sure that that line was straight. So my photo is going to go right there. I'm just pulling out all my bits and pieces now because I wasn't super happy with just that stark line. So I'm trying to find something to help break that up a little bit. And I like the rainbows there, but I don't like that thick band of white. So I take it away, but then I brought it back and I thought, oh, what if I fussy cut these out? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and trim all the way around the edge. And I'm not fussy cutting them out individually. I am cutting down near to the edge of the band there, but I'm leaving an edge so that I can adhere it all down in one piece. And once I've done that, I am just going to skip those middle ones because they're going to be hidden by my photos, so there's no point in carefully fussy cutting those out. There we go. Now that that's all done, I can just tuck the edge underneath and they look like they're all individual, but in reality I only have to glue down that one big strip, so that makes life a little bit easier. I'm just putting this down with some tacky glue here. Got it assembled how I want it, so just putting a little dot of glue behind each of those, and then coming in with a photo mat. So I'm just going to use some more of this paper that I used to create one of the strips, and I'm just choosing the more simple solid part of the paper here, so it's just very light watercolor effect pastels. And I'm just going to trim that down just to create a very simple photo mat. There you go. I think the photo itself is bold enough that it stands out on the page without needing too much else going on. So now I've pulled out all the die cut titles. I want to go through and pull out the Good Days. That's going to be my title. And you can see there I have the packet with all my titles that I've used, so I can easily find a title within that. I learned that from Gwen, who's on the design team as well. It's a really good tip. So that is pretty much how my title is going to go. I'm going to tweak it a little bit, but I'm just going to do a vertical line with my title. And I've decided to use all these teeny tiny die cuts, all the florals, to create a cascade of flowers. So this is where the idea of the cherry blossoms falling really comes in. So I'm just going to, I've got a ton of these teeny tiny die cuts. So I'm just going to, scatter them really randomly just down the center of that page so they look like they're falling down. And I do muck with these quite a bit. There's quite a lot of back and forth and fussing around with it. So that's a creative process, right? I did find those little pink clusters as well, those little kind of clusters of blossoms. So I pulled those out and I'm just trying to work everything in so it all balances nicely and all fits together nicely. I don't want too many blue flowers together. Yeah, I'm just trying to get a nice balance. Okay. Fussing with that. I did just adhere my photo down off camera. I had to finesse it quite a bit to get it straight. Those ruffled edges at the bottom were really throwing off my ability to make sure that things are straight on the page. So I'm gluing down my title now. I am going to just layer the edge of this one slightly over the top of my photo. I do like to try and connect my titles with something if I can. I don't love when titles are just sort of floating off in space, so that's why I try to overlap them slightly. Just playing again with these florals, I move them around a lot, and I think I do come back in in a minute and glue them all down. So here we go. And now that I've got them where I want them, I am not moving them. I'm just lifting them up a little bit, putting a dab of glue behind and then sticking them down. And a couple of these down here over the top of the ruffles needed a bit of extra glue to make them stick, but once they were dry, they stayed. So I really wanted to emphasize this whole falling blossoms idea. So I'm coming in with some Nouveau drops now. This is just a white color and I'm doing these just randomly all down that vertical line in amongst the flowers, filling in those empty spaces. And this now is just a light champagne gold Nouveau drop. Again, just doing teeny tiny little random dots of this all the way down, filling in all those gaps. And the last thing I'm going to do is come in with some of the sequin mix. So I'm going to put in 3 of these little gold leaves. They match perfectly with the idea I have going here. So I'm just going to evenly space those amongst my falling blossoms where I can find space for them. And the last thing I'll do is just come in with some of the round cup sequins. I'm using a combination of the white and the pale pink ones, and I'm really just putting those in randomly, again, where I can find space in amongst those falling blossoms. And that's my layout all done. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope you enjoyed this layout. You can read all about it in the blog post, which will be linked in the description box below, along with a link to the Coco Vanilla Studio community Facebook group. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.